Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to do a video about how to fix freezer jam that didn't set. I hope you'll stay tuned. Well, on Saturday, Rich and I went and got strawberries and then we made freezer jam. Unfortunately, it didn't set, and I'm going to show you that in a second, and I'm going to show you what my end result is now. This is what it looks like after I fixed it. Yeah, it looks really good like jam. And I had to do it in a few batches, but it's thick. And then I'm going to just tap that off, and I'm going to show you this is what it looked like before. Just pure, it didn't do anything. There was no setting at all. I used the Sure Jell recipe that everybody uses, I think. I did 2 batches that were completely separate, and I did all of my measuring individually per batch, and still this is what I got. And I have a lot of containers that look like this. Freezer gel is supposed to be almost foolproof, but in reading online, what I found was people said that their Sure Jell must have been in a bad batch. One lady said she made 5 batches and none of them set. And the answer that Sure Jell gives you is to, wait for it, buy more Sure Jell and do it all over again and add more sugar to the existing batches. Well, I didn't want to do that. So I looked online to find what were the answers, and then I called my sister and we started talking about options, and she said, why don't you try using strawberry jell-o as a thickening agent? And I thought that was smart, but then we started talking about how much more sugar that adds and how much more of a strawberry taste, and I wasn't sure that I wanted a strawberry taste that was so strong. The answer is right here. Cornstarch. It works like a champ, and I'm going to show you how to do it, how much to do, the whole ball of wax, because I want you to know exactly what to do so that you don't go, oh my gosh, Sandy didn't explain that, which is what I found when I saw one little blurb about cornstarch. They basically said you can thicken jam with cornstarch, but they didn't explain how much or how. So let me get my things together and I'll show you exactly what you need to do. Before we get started with more of the recipe, I want to show you one thing I've noticed so far that I really didn't know would happen, but it's like with gravy. Sometimes you get a little skin on the top. Now you probably could put like a saran wrap or parchment paper over this and push it down on top so that you don't get that, but it stirs right in. It's not an issue. Oops, sorry. How's that? It's not an issue in that it's not edible. It is in fact edible. In tasting it, it doesn't taste different, although there is a little bit of a texture difference, and that didn't bother me either. It's really basically, if you know what the texture of gravy is like, it kind of has more of that texture. Hopefully that made sense. So what you want to do, the containers that you've already used, you want to empty the contents into a pan, and then you want to keep one of them, so that you can pour the others into it, because you want water to use with your cornstarch, and why waste all of this good stuff? So let me see if I can put the camera so that you can see what I'm talking about, and then we'll go from there. My container is in the bottom of my sink right here. Of course you can't see that. Then you're going to put your water on cold, very slow trickle like that. Then you want to just put it so that you can get it on the top of your container. Then what I did is I pulled in the next container and I just dumped the water from one to the other, trying to get as much out of this as possible. Make sure your hands are clean. That's always crucial when you're doing canning. And this has like a gel consistency on this one on top. I'm not going to use that because I want it to make sure I liquefy it. But if there's any strawberry, I am okay with using that. So this I'm just going to set aside to wash. Then I'm going to make sure, again, hold on. I know most of you wouldn't do this with your finger, but this is the easiest way to really get all of the strawberry off the side. I hope you can see that, because I want to make sure I get as much strawberry off the side as possible. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. I don't know, hopefully you can see there's a lot of strawberry on the edge, and that's flavor. You don't want to get rid of that because you're going to be diluting it a little bit by putting this water in there. So you want to make sure, since you're adding extra water. Okay, so then I can dump that one in there. I am only doing basically half of a small saucepan this time because I want you to see the process, and I want you to be able to know my measurements. So I want to get my measuring cup so we know exactly how much we've got going on here. Ultimately, you're going to want your cornstarch to look like this in the bowl. I then keep that set aside, and I'll show you my little setup. Here's my stove. My pot has already had batches in, and there's really no need to clean your pot between batches because it's really hard to clean. You'll get all kinds of stuck on jam. So it's better if you just do your batches all in a row and then clean it once at the end. It's hard to see because it's pink on the bottom. Okay, then you're going to have beside it, you want a little bowl that you can put your any kind of drippings in. I put a plate under that because I also keep a spoon on hand and my ladle, a spoon, a ladle, my fork, and my cornstarch. And then this is our batch that didn't set, and I'm going to once more show you exactly how runny it is. It's pure water basically. Over here is another batch that I'm going to do after this one. I'm doing, if I said quarts, maybe I did, I'm doing three cups is what's in here. It's not quarts, 3 cups is in here, and I'm going to pour that into my pan. If you didn't get all of the juice out and you have another batch coming, don't throw this out, just let it set, or dump your other container into that, because that's what you're going to be using next. So you might as well not clean it in between. As I said, make it all at the end. I forgot to tell you about one more tool, and it's this. It's really close up. It's called a spurtle. It's wooden, and it's really nice for scraping down sides of the pan. The pan itself I have on medium heat, which I have an electric oven stove. So if you have an electric stove like mine, medium heat at 5 is really more like medium high. So if you have problems with having your heat be too high at this point, you can turn it down. But your point of this is you need to stir it to make sure that the sugars in here don't get adhered to the bottom of your pan and to the sides of your pan. And you also don't want to have that sugar boil over unsuspectingly and melt all over your stove. It's really hard to clean sugar, and it's molten. This is a very dangerous proposition. If you don't know anything about sugar on heat, you can literally have it adhere to your skin, and it will stay there and create a huge burn because it kind of sticks on your skin, as opposed to things you can just wipe off of your skin. So I'm going to have Rich fast forward till we get to the boiling stage. This is when you need this ladle. And what I do is I just, hopefully you're going to see this, hopefully the lighting won't block it. You're just going to kind of lightly skim the surface. See that? And then that's what I use that little bowl for. And then again, go around the edges. My girlfriend and I, the first time she and I ever made jam together, she collected all of her foam, and then she just put it in a little bowl, and that night when her husband came home from work, he made himself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he ate it, no problem. It's not that it's bad, it's just not pretty. Okay, I'm starting to boil, so I'm going to turn my heat off for a second because I want to get that rest of that foam off there. One last time, we're going to stir our cornstarch mixture. Want to make sure it's nice and lump free, and then I'm going to pour it right into my bowl or my pan. Try to make sure you get all of it in there. Then you want to immediately start stirring, and I have it back on 4.5, and we're just going to stir it until it starts to get thick. If it doesn't get thick, the reason I gave you all of those measurements is so that if it doesn't get thick with the amount of cornstarch we put in, then we can add more. It's starting to get a little bit thicker. When you use cornstarch, you have to have a boil before it reaches its full potential. And Honey's very upset by this, so if you hear a high-pitched whine, that's Honey. She doesn't like it when I do anything in the kitchen. Now is when it starts to really thicken. It hit that hard boil stage. See how it's getting thicker? This could be the amount of thickness you want, because it will get a little bit thicker as it sets. Let's hold it up and we'll one more. See, now it's coming off like in globs. That's what we want. We want globs. I'm going to use my spurtle just to clean off the sides of my pan. So what you're going to do now is you're going to get your ladle, and I'm not going to show you this part because it's probably the kiss of death, but I have one of these things. You can just pour your jam into your container, or you can use one of these. The reason you use one of these is it makes it so that any kind of splashing goes inside this funnely thing. It's made specifically for canning. So I wanted to compare my last batch I made and my new batch. This one is room temperature, and this one is still very hot. I want you to see the difference in texture and consistency so you know how it works. This is brand new and hot. I'm shaking my spoon to get it off. You can see the spoon is still covered. That's a good sign. That's what we want, as compared to that runny mess we had before. And then we'll go to this one. Now this one is much firmer. You'll see in a second. Because look at how the spoon holds even more of it. See? It's perfect. I will come back in a few days and update you so that you know how this went and if I'm still happy with it. These again are freezer jams. That means when you are done with it, you're finished with your batch, you want to put it, once it's cooled, room temperature cool, you want to put it in your freezer. Some of the measurements I gave you are going to vary based on the humidity in your area and how well it gelled. I'm not sure if this is like a 2-quart pan. This is my next batch that I'm doing. What I did with my very first batch is I put too much cornstarch in it, and it was really, really thick. I mean, super thick. So when I made my next batch, I took some out of the jars and I put it back in the pan, and then I filled those jars back up with the less thick jam, and then I stirred it. Again, this is within an hour of doing the first batch, so that when I was done, both batches were a more even consistency. So this is what it looks like about 10 days later. It's very thick, and the only thing that I think that there's 2 changes. As I said, the consistency is it has a little bit of a starchier consistency to it. And the only other thing I would say is it seems a little bit more tart after doing the adding the cornstarch. So you might want to consider adding a little more sugar. But if you like it tart, you might not. So, but that's what it looks like 10 days in. And this has just been in the refrigerator. It hasn't been in the freezer. The rest of my batch is in the freezer. So honestly, I think we couldn't ask for a better result. I hope this helped you. It helped me. I'm telling you, I was so frustrated. I didn't know what I was going to do because I was not going to buy 2 more boxes of Sure Jell, which is what they told me to do. And even one more note of worthiness, they said if you did it, it still wouldn't be as thick, or it might not be as thick as it normally was. Well, then why did I do it? So this system made me super happy. So glad my sister came up with the idea, and I hope this helps some of you if you run into the same problem. I hope you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.